Welcome to Eldest Daughter Diaries podcast. We are so glad you're here. This is a community forward space where we, Kenecia and Krystal, two eldest daughters from different cultures and backgrounds, share our candid experiences that shaped us as eldest daughters. There will be intimate shares, honest storytelling, and most of all, encouragement, inspiration, and lots of love on our fellow eldest daughters who are changing the world just by being themselves. And that's you. And today's topic is breaking free from the family role.
Just a little one.
Yeah, just something small.
Just a tiny little topic for today. Welcome everybody. So glad you're here. Today's topic is definitely a bigger conversation, and we will journey through it as much as we will today. And then if ever there's interest in continuing this conversation, you just let us know. Breaking free from the family roles. So we're always going to be eldest daughters, right? But from a functional perspective, like in our own development, individuating from the family and the family roles is a really powerful and important part of building our own identities in the world. It's a part of becoming an adult. And it's also, I would say it's like a step towards the self-actualization for living out what our soul is here to live out in this life. I found the limitations of being the eldest daughter really start to get louder and louder and louder towards the end of my 20s, where I was just starting to notice that there were patterns going on that were holding me back. And I was as much in it. It wasn't like it was all happening to me. I was a part of it. Like the codependency, the enmeshment was so intense that when I was working with a therapist, I learned about this concept called individuation. And it was helpful to put a word to it, actually, because it was not a single like spark. It's like, okay, I'm individuated. Like it was a very long, such a messy, confusing, lonely process. And I don't think it needs to be that for everybody. I'm not saying, I'm speaking from my experience, but it also happened to dovetail with my Saturn return. So for some of you, you may know about Saturn return, some may not. So just a quick context on that, because I find that when we start talking about it and understanding it, we can all look back and say, holy shit, that's what was going on. So your Saturn placement in astrology, it has a natal placement, meaning like when you were born, it was in a certain spot in the sky. Then it takes 29 years to circle back to that same spot. So somewhere between 27 and 31, 32, somewhere in there, you will have had this kind of like karmic check-in with your soul. Is this the life I want to be living? Does this feel good to me? Does this even feel like me? Right? So it's
Right.
this it's this opportunity to realign to what is most you. And the shadow part of this is that every 29 years or so, when Saturn is returning, there are also these checkpoints of, do you want to stay? Do you want to go on a soul level? And so there's this odd, not so odd coincidence of, if you've ever heard of the 27 Club, it's this kind of like cultural knowing around different artists and musicians who have all died at 27. And this is their first Saturn return, and not everybody chooses to continue beyond. Is this a conscious choice? No, not always. You know what I'm saying? But there are some interesting similarities through that time of life. So if we're lucky, it happens 3 times across our lives, if we are lucky enough to live long, beautiful life. But it can involve these like tough wake up calls and like relationship reorganizations. And like for me, I moved clear across the country. I changed my career. Like I traveled the world. So it was very kind of obvious for me. But that whole process was me individuating myself. And I didn't realize that that was going on. So let's just define what the heck individuation is. So according to goodtherapy.org, individuation refers to the process through which a person achieves a sense of individuality separate from the identities of others and begins to consciously exist as a human in the world. So, that obvious last part. But the
Mm-hmm.
points of emphasis that I want to make is the individuality separate from the identities of others, meaning family in this case. You're parsing out yourself from the whole, the culture of the whole, which is the family, and then begins to consciously exist as a human in the world. This is where we kind of go from this unconscious pattern of what we learned. This is just what you do. This is what my family does, to
Right.
conscious choice of what we want to be living out, right?
Mhm.
What's important to us. So this process continues over our lives, by the way. This is not just a one and done ever. But as we get closer to our 30s, this process becomes more obvious, and you start to see that you started to become your own person, own identity, rules, roles, and everything beyond that. Can you look back, Kenecia, and see this for yourself as well?
Yeah. When you said 27, I was like, that's when I finished at Alabama State. That's when I got my degree and kind of went into the corporate role.
Yeah.
During that time, I did have like some rifts with like family, friendship, like where did I belong? It still was in Alabama. So having those moments to where what works for me, what doesn't, actually, that's when I really kind of like closer to my 30s, in my 30s, I started going to therapy. And so that really kind of helped me figure out like what works for me. What do I want to do with my life? What makes me happy? What can I do to make myself happy instead of relying on these family dynamics and relationships to make me happy? How can I find the happiness within myself?
Yeah. And, if you're listening, if somebody's listening to this and they're like, well, I'm kind of like still doing those roles, I'm kind of still in it. Like, I
Yeah.
guess what I want to share with that person is we're all on our own rhythms and our own timing. Part of why we want to be having these conversations is so that it would have been nice to know that these things were even possible
Early.
way before
Yeah.
we even like kind of stumbled upon them and happened upon them. So consider it all like I am where I need to be. You
Mhm.
are spot on. And this is hopefully going to open up more conversation and maybe be like a permission giver for taking up more space as who you truly deeply know yourself to be.
Yeah, unapologetically, because I know a lot of times, and I've noticed when I'm talking, sometimes I'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry," blah, blah, blah. Like, no. Sometimes you just have to let the sorry dwindle because your voice should be heard. What you're saying should be taken into account, but also I think it's a response to a lot of, trauma or going through different relationships where we have to feel like we have to apologize about every single thing that, that we say we do. It shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't have to feel sorry for speaking up or saying, what matters to you, what's important to you. Because I mean, it's a lot of times people don't know what's important until they're 27, 30, 35. Like you said, it just depends on you and your pattern in life.
Hmm. Yeah. And a lot of times this stuff doesn't clarify until a crisis is going down.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, and I guess the invitation embedded in this conversation is you can take time to do this inner world exploration now, and you don't have to do it alone. Like Kenecia and I talk
Mhm.
about literally every episode, it comes back to clarity we gained in therapy.
In therapy, Miss Doris.
Right. And through our mentors and our support system that we cultivated as like chosen support team, chosen family. So if you feel like you're just flailing out there, you're just like, I have no idea even where to start by just listening to this podcast. And then there's also going to be some journal prompts at the end and really take some time to reflect on those.
So I did have a question
Hmm.
with the solar return. So it's every 29 years, 27, 29.
Yeah. So Saturn return, solar return happens every year. That's your birthday, essentially.
What did I say, Saturn or solar?
Solar. Yeah.
Okay, I meant Saturn. Sorry.
That's okay. We love a Leo birthday, just saying. And thank God
Okay.
it comes every year.
Every year, if you like me, you celebrate every month.
Like, that's the way it should be.
All right.
Yeah, so Saturn return, I think for me it started to really kick off earlier than that for sure. It was like around like 26 to be honest, but then when I really started to consciously carve out a new path, it was around like late 27, 28, for sure 29. It was like psh, literally I'm
Yeah,
on a plane.
on the plane on the other side of town, other side of the country,
Uh
for sure.
World. Yep.
Yeah, there.
Yeah. So it is interesting to go like when you reflect, if you get curious about Saturn return, like there's such great write-ups out there from like astrologers talking about like themes of the first Saturn return, themes of the second, because the first one's going to be starting, in your 20s, the second
20s.
one's in your 50s, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like late 70s. It's like those are different junctures in life and they all
Uh-huh.
have different, becoming of yourself.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
definitely
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was like, I definitely need to read up on that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You can get really nerdy with it. I
Yeah.
found it honestly to be so grounding to learn about that because during that time, so maybe I can just share a little bit about like what
Mhm.
kicked off the individuation journey for me. My mom had a major surgery of a organ transplant, and it was a very intense, emotionally intense, physically intense experience leading up to that. I was 26 years old. I was holding the family together.
Man.
I mean, when I look back now to that version of me and all she was holding and going through and having a career and trying to be healthy in some measure, I just have the most compassion for her. It was so intense, and I didn't know how intense it was until I was out of it and unpacking it with my therapist. So that my mom made it through. She's thriving, even still, which is a
She looks really
huge.
good. When I saw her, she looked really good.
She's running her own business. She's very creative. Like she really got like a second lease on life. And I'm just so happy for her and proud of her. And like that was my spiritual awakening. That was my health awakening. That was a coming home to myself because after watching that, when you're that close to death,
Mhm.
and there was a teetering moment where the signs were saying she was not going to pull through, but I held hope in my heart that she would, and she did, luckily. But healing after that process was pretty intense for me. And where it led me was to the clarity of like, I need space. I need some space from all of
Yeah.
this to begin to sort who I am after it, but also to reprioritize myself because I was like living for everyone else in my family,
Mhm.
literally. And where I landed from doing that, because that does not, I was going to say, does not have a cost. That has a cost to it for
Mhm.
sure. And the cost for
Yeah.
me was my body, my health, and my mental health, which I had no idea I didn't know that I had any mental health struggles or like anxiety or anything. And my God, looking back, it's like, girlfriend, you were going through so much. Of course you did. Like, of course you did. So that process of creating space led me to travel. We've talked about this in other episodes where I traveled to Bali. I literally, on a soul level, my soul was like, go, girl, go. And I think I just knew that I needed the space to just sort myself. So I literally flew to the other side of the world and then came back and then flew to the other side of the country. And all of this happened over a span of like 5 years. But that 5 years, let me tell you, is when the major part of this individuation happened for me.
Mhm.
What's important for this conversation too, and I wanted to mention this in the beginning before I started sharing about it, like the story part, is
Mhm.
that like we have to consider an intergenerational lens when it comes to individuating as well, especially in the ways that we do it in modern day, where there's more like mental health language, there's more access to information, there's the internet, so many
Right.
things. And I'm coming at this conversation speaking from, the privilege and the opportunities and the context that women in my family have not had until current day, right? Like I'm child free. I actually have the
Mhm.
bandwidth to unpack this stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
And the
have an
time because
and the time and the
yeah,
resources to pay for therapy, right? And have access to that, which that should never we should always have access to mental health support, period, point blank.
exactly.
Period. But yeah, and I'm an entrepreneur. I make my own money. Like I create my own lifestyle and I'm living openly. I'm openly queer. And,
Mhm.
I speak about spirituality publicly and with my clients. I have therapy, like I mentioned. I've traveled the world. I have education. So, and also the biggest one for my family lineage is that I've grown up in one country. Like I have
Mm,
not had to leave my home
yeah,
and the
same.
benefit of that, but also the fallout of watching the effects on both my parents from different parts of the world ending up in the US and the strain and mental health issues of being disconnected from your homelands, literally, but also your people and cultures, those things come at a cost. So I want to paint that picture because I don't want to be over here with the microphone preaching about like individuate yourself because that can be really quickly taken to just reinforce individualist culture. And I
Mhm.
actually I don't want that for our collective future.
We still need community. We still need each other, but we also need to find out who we are as people, as an individual, as a person. And I
Absolutely.
think with me, I was still in Alabama once I started my career, but I just kind of learned how to be more be more open with who I am. Like, yeah, I like to go to concerts. I like to listen to music instead of watch TV or read books instead of, going out smoking hookah. Like I've done all those things, but also it's like aren't you tired of that? Like I would go to clubs all the time, and now I'm just like, I'm over clubs. Give me a nice little jazz bar or listen to some music somewhere or even outside of the realm of bars. Let's go to a museum. Let's find out more about the different cultures and just experience those moments because I would say when I went to Korea, it was the eye-opening experience to see how they live, how their family sits and have dinner, no TV on, no phones. They're all sitting there having that moment, connecting with each other. And if you really sit and think, like, when was the last time your family sat down and had like dinner and actually connected with each other? How was your day? Oh, how's this class going? It brings another perspective into what are we looking for in this life? What do we want to do with our life?
Mhm.
I think that really helped me because coming in, I was Baptist. I grew up in Southern Baptist, I'll say that. Grew up going to church with my grandmothers, my great grandmother and my grandmother, but also just kind of once we moved to Cleveland, I was going to Catholic school. So even the religious part of those, like I came to the conclusion there's more than one higher being for depending on your religion. And one is not better than the other. A lot of times we kind of look down, especially these days, we kind of look down on other religions and other people that don't look like us or don't think that, Christ is the higher power. So it's good to branch outside of your normal. That's basically what I'm trying to get to. Branching out outside of your normal and understanding like there are different perspectives in the world, different people, and it's okay to kind of venture into other wells of knowledge or lifestyles and things like that. Be safe, be safe, but also like it's okay to do that.
I think it's necessary to do that,
Mhm.
because it's like if you sprinkle your experiences around as far as like trying out new things, how else are you going to find yourself in those things?
Exactly. Yes. You're
You can't
not
do that scrolling on your phone. Like, I mean, to an
right.
extent, like, okay, you're gonna follow accounts that align to you, but there's nothing like going to meet people
Yes.
and have fun and make memories and be silly. Part of
Yes.
the and I love that you and I both like travel was a vehicle for this individuation journey for us. And that's, oh God, any young person who's in college, the only thing that I'm like, "You gotta do this," is, like, you gotta travel abroad. Like, you gotta do a study
Yes.
abroad if you can. Please make it happen because it's so easy not to because it's very big. It's just a big
Mhm.
idea, you know? It's big and new and all the things and the unknown, but I can't say enough about how it shaped me and formed me because you get this, like, peppering of all the different ways that humans can live and express and dress and eat and live their lives, how they
Yes.
get to work, slang, like, it's just interesting and, like, when I look at how I wanna direct my life now, it's, like, more travel because travel helps me find more of me out in the
Mhm.
world, and I also it helps me find the heart of other people as well. So, like, when I went to Bali, like, I found it to be so fascinating because, the US is so isolated,
Mhm.
and insulated, I should say, more very, very insulated where all these different countries in Europe and Asia and South America, the state of Ohio is an entire country over there. So the way
Yeah.
you travel interstate here is international there, country there. And like that exposure of just sitting in a cafe, having a friggin' coconut water with vanilla bean in it and talking with somebody that was just in Thailand, but originally from Switzerland and speaks 5 languages, and then another person is from Asia and traveling the world for a year, and, another one's taking a sabbatical from work, and it's just you get this exposure, like, people from Australia and New Zealand, like, I don't get access to that living in
Mm-mm.
Ohio as much, like, we do have a really diverse city and a diverse, community here,
We do.
but
Yes.
and I love, love, love that, and it's just different, when you're in different
It
hub
is.
spots around the world.
Yeah.
Clearly, I get excited about it.
I think we, as Americans, we that a lot of people don't
So
think
many,
that we do.
so
And
many.
I'm saying that I know we talked about this one episode about traveling, how everywhere in Korea we walked. Like it was rarely us taking an Uber or getting on the plane or getting on the train or whatever. We walked around the city mostly. And even my experience at the temple, like how we all just kind of came together through experience of walking up a mountain. Like we've all never really had that experience walking up a mountain like that. And it really just opened my eyes to, I think, still think back of, okay, that was like my first hiking experience. And now I'm out here, riding hikes around Columbus. Like
It's
it
so
all
cool.
kind of ties into again what makes you happy and what do you want to do. I like to
Mhm.
walk. I am a faster walker than a lot of people. I really am like, okay, this helps me clear my mind. This helps
Yeah.
me get my thoughts together. And I use that when I would work and I would be so like frustrated with the issue. I couldn't figure it out. You know what? I'm taking a 15-minute break. I'm going for a walk. Like having that privilege that we take for granted is really it sometimes it's upsetting to me, but again, your Saturn return, you have these choices to venture out what works for you and what doesn't. I'm
Uh-huh.
figuring out what works for me and I'm doing that for myself.
Yep. Question for you.
Mm.
When you started to make these different choices for yourself and start kind of behaving differently than what your family might have expected from you, as you were like traveling and making your way on your own, what were you experiencing on the family front as far as like what people were thinking about you or different resistance that you encountered, if any?
Um, you know, I have this really vivid memory of me telling my auntie and my grandmother that I was going to Korea, and I was like, "Yeah, they're gonna pay for it, but I still kinda need some money." I wasn't working. Of course, I was a college student. And, I was like, "Yeah, I wanna, have some travel money or whatever." And my auntie really just took the time to have a fish fry for me so that I could have some
Oh.
money to go. Like, we cooked we went and got all the materials and things like that we needed. So that was a really, really good memory of just like the support. We all made flyers, we passed them out. People from my mom's job and my auntie's old job, like they all came through and got up a plate and it felt really good. But on the flip side, I had some people that weren't as welcoming. Um and maybe they just didn't understand what I was doing or why I was doing it. And I think a lot of times when that happened, it was like, she's trying to act white.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Because black people don't do that, and it's
Ah,
like, the black people don't do that. It's a whole world out here of people, black people that travel, black people that are in higher education, that are making ways for themselves, that do not rely on the government or rely on someone else helping them. Of course, I'm grateful, and I gave my auntie such beautiful gifts when I came back from Korea,
oh, I
but
bet
she
you
did
did.
not have to do that, you know?
It's
It was,
incredible.
yeah, it was out the kindness of her heart to want to support me in a way, and I really looked at that as a memory that can, like, withstand of
Mm.
how I can support my nieces and nephews when they do something extraordinary or just simple, because we need to support each other wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a little teary-eyed there, but yeah.
Kenesha, it's so sweet.
They really just kinda warmed my heart to just see that, honestly.
It's it's really moving me too because, like, that's the difference sometimes between someone having the gusto to really make it happen, like, "I'm gonna do this. I'm not just gonna talk about it. I'm gonna do this," versus
Yeah.
not. Like, imagine if you didn't. It's just so important what she did for you and where it led
Mm.
you. I'm so
Yeah,
inspired to hear that.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
How about
Bless
you?
her.
I'm gonna switch it because 'cause you're gonna make me continue to cry, so I'm gonna switch it
It's
back on
okay.
you.
We're very tear positive around here. It's okay.
Uh-huh.
It's okay. Gosh, I think why it's so moving to hear that story is because I just experienced so much resistance to what I
Mhm.
was doing. I mean, really intense. It's not that I didn't have support. I do think I had support, but it was more this energy of, I mean, I think in summary, the best way to put it is like I had to claw my way out. I had to really, really push and like push myself into new territory against
Mm.
opinions and kind of emotional just nonsense happening in my direction. And then, like, the friends I had at that time, they were I had traveled, to London with a lot of them. So, like, we had all traveled
Okay.
together. So there was support on the travel front, but when the trip led to the quitting my job, led to the moving across country, led to selling all my shit, like,
You're
it
crazy. You're going crazy.
They're like, "What is going on with you?" And I just need to share this. I hope somebody in a similar position hears me when I say this. My best answer to that question, straight to their faces, over and over again, was, "I don't know. I have no idea what is going on
Not
with me right now."
you just out here winging it.
I'm just like, "I don't know, but we're gonna figure it out." And I swear that being so freaking honest about that made people even more uncomfortable. I mean, it brought out every insecurity of their own of why they would never do what I was doing. So it was like not only my uncertainty, but I'm just like batting away all of these like, be careful about this and what about that and what about this and what about that. I'm just like, I'll figure it out. Dude, I will figure it out. I'm a capable woman, okay? I will get it. I will figure it out. So,
And
yeah,
I
it was intense.
Yeah, I think that brings it back to what you were saying as a child-free woman. Like, you have that free will to do things like this and make things happen
Yes.
for yourself, you know?
Yes. Yes. I think, like now I'm like, entering into my 40s.
Mhm,
It's much more like societally acceptable at this point in my life. It's like I come across as an adult. Like,
mhm.
I live on my own. Like, so when you make big life decisions, I feel like there's a bit more, I don't know, maybe a little less intense, but who knows? Everybody's context is really, really different. But back then, it was like, I think because in your 20s, you're so dependent on fitting in and belonging, and then the identity that comes part of that. And then you have the audacity to start removing yourself from those support systems in the way that you've
Mm,
been showing up. And it really just agitates the norms. And that's appropriate. That's a normal thing to have happen.
yeah.
But you do end up seeing people's real, like, true colors through that process, I would say.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's definitely where I've learned to how can I say this? Because I am a solo person. I do solo traveling, solo dating. I do concert solo. I enjoy having friends to do that with, but not at the expense of my mental health or at the expense of me not feeling comfortable being myself around them, you know? And so
Sure.
I had to learn how to maneuver through those relationships. And sometimes it come with, having conversations. Other times, people outgrow each other.
Yeah.
And that is okay. It is okay to outgrow friendships
That is
and family
okay.
ships. It is okay, guys.
It is okay. Not all relationships are meant to last our whole lives.
Not our whole lives. I mean, like maybe me and Crystal will be in the nursing home, Kikiing, talking about the
Literally, I can't wait.
like we'll be in a nursing home, but also like I learned that before Saturn returned that a lot of friendships that you will outgrow because people go their separate ways. They do things that work for them. And a lot of times you are not in that bulk of what works for them.
Mhm.
And that is okay.
And that is okay. That is okay.
It is okay.
Yeah. And, that's, of course, like, a complex, intricate, like, lived experience of that, I will
Mhm.
say. Like, I would say, like, I was responsible for relationships ending, not solely, but
Mhm.
maybe the ending was, triggered by something I chose or something I did, and then vice versa, So, but at the end of the day, like, I think it is really great that we included this piece and kind of found it along the way that the individuation process does sometimes have a cost of the relationships in your life.
Yeah.
Um, and it also will lead you to more aligned relationships that nourish you on levels you had no idea were even available to you. And
Yes.
sometimes we need to make space for that. And that is a painful process that can be very difficult, very, very difficult. I have a very tender heart looking back at that time in my life of, the relationships I had, the relationships I lost, the kind of
Mhm.
like almost like fake versions of myself that I was trying on for size. And they weren't fake, but it was just like, trying this on. What about this? What about this?
Mhm.
And just, I don't know, makes my insides, like, tender, like, automatically because I just didn't have that solidity of knowing myself yet,
Yeah.
right? It's all very malleable at that time, but I'm really glad I tried those things on for size, and because, again, just like we were saying, try all these different things to figure out what
Mhm.
works, and I'll take this, and then I'll take this piece, and then I'll take this piece, and then that braids together and becomes, like, your center line of who you are in your life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the relationships can be tough though, that
Yeah.
turnover.
I definitely I'm going to add on to what you just said because a lot of time we have to have those uncomfortable moments. And what really helped me shape like who I am and what I want to do outside of my Saturn return was me getting injured.
Mhm.
Early in my 30s, I was playing kickball and ended up rupturing my patella tendon. And for those who don't know, that's what connects your top of your leg to the bottom of your leg with the kneecap. So that tendon that
Oh,
connects that was I could not walk. I could not get up.
wow.
And I literally had to have emergency surgery to where again I'm in Alabama on the cusp of Columbus, Georgia. My mother is in Columbus, Ohio. My father is my father. He was not really in my life like that. But I had to lean on other people to help me throughout this. And so sometimes that came with frustration, people forgetting I was supposed to take her to this PT appointment, or me having to, take Ubers to PT appointments, or learning how to walk back upstairs and down. Like I stayed in my lower level for almost 2 months because I was in a full leg cast for
Wow.
3 months. So I had to learn how to lean on people, even though those people may not have wanted to help, but they were willing to help at that time. So that forced solitude helped me learn more about myself, but also learn, I don't want to say how to read people, but for the lack of better word, for better terms right now, I'll say how to read people and how they would want to extend their help on things. It was a journey for sure.
Yeah.
It was a journey getting like learning how to walk again. Thankfully, the guy that I was dating at the time was a OT, and he was not the best person to me, but at the time he helped tremendously in helping me learn how to walk and giving me just feedback on things that I can do better. So again, back to those relationships. They may not last forever, but some people come in your life for a reason and some for a season. And you just have to learn how to discern that.
Mm,
I can't even tell you how to discern it. I just kind of feel it. I ask questions, I try to read the person.
yeah.
I try to understand what is happening. And, sometimes it's okay to just say no.
Yeah. It's
So
necessary sometimes. Yeah. Because that does open the doorway for more aligned relationships.
exactly, exactly. I've had times where I was, hey, can you do this for me? And excuse me, I wouldn't get a response. It's okay to say no. It's a sentence. It's okay, guys. But again, that helped me discern who and who I can lean more on than others.
Yeah. It's definitely a learned skill,
Yeah.
discernment piece. I would say it's like a good, healthy dose of lived experience,
Hmm.
maturity, and intuition.
Yeah.
Yeah. That can be a tricky one. And it's truly like a trial and error process.
Right.
You gotta just try it this time, get the feedback. Okay, we're not gonna do that again, and keep it moving.
And
But
keep on moving.
yeah.
Yep. You found your answer then.
So, we've talked about the concept of individuation, kind of our context of where we've come from with that, how we did it. But then what's also an interesting part is the coming back to our family's systems as adults after individuation. So I would love to talk about that a little bit. Like, I know for me, moving back from California was that, like coming back to Ohio. And the reasons for coming back totally sucked. I went through a terrible, terrible breakup, had huge financial impact from that breakup, had to move back from California to Ohio, literally drove myself solo across the country, made it here, and then like lived with my parents for 14 months as I restarted my life. Um,
Mm. How was that?
it was so hard. It was
Yeah.
so challenging. Just the heartbreak and the grief of it all of it. I mean, I think I was definitely going through it with the breakup, but I also had to leave my beloved Southern California, and I just didn't wanna have to do that. But
Yeah.
one of those, like, divine redirects, wholly and completely a divine redirect. It was like the hand of God came down into my life and said, "Girlfriend, you deserve better than this, and I'm gonna show you how to start over so that you can." And it's so true. It's just that truly is the meta perspective on what was going on. But at first, it was very, very difficult. I came right back into the kind of the epicenter of where a lot of my trauma happened. A lot of patterns were still at play, and I was this very, 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 very different new person. So it was rough. It was very challenging. But I had, a therapist at the time, different from the one I had, in early years. And he really helped me do a lot of work around like inner child healing.
Okay.
And listen, if there's ever a time to do inner child healing, it is when you're living in your childhood home
With your
with your
parents.
parents.
I could not imagine.
I should have gotten freaking paid to do that work, okay? Like,
To be a fly on the wall, baby.
I'm just like, some of this like inner work, like this friggin' deep, hard work. This is the paid shit. This is what we should be getting paid to do. Oh
Boy,
God.
I
So,
couldn't have,
so wild.
yeah, I could not imagine. You know, I'm grateful that you had the opportunity to come back home and
Me
have
too.
somewhere to come. Like,
That is true. That is so true.
I don't have that experience.
Mhm.
I've been on my own. When I say on my own, I've had my own space since I was at least 24. And I don't think that I don't think that if something would have happened to me in Alabama, I don't believe that I my father would have opened his doors for me. Not
Yeah.
saying that he wouldn't, because I don't know. He's not here now. We can't have that conversation. But we didn't have that relationship where I could talk to him about things and do things. It was a very different relationship
Yeah.
to be in. And it really kind of sucked that now, I'm looking back and I'm hearing your story, like how you've had the opportunity to get back to your childhood home and work through, some of the trauma that you've been through with your parents. Whereas I'm still able to do that with my mom, but right now with my father, I literally had to forgive him from heaven.
Mm.
So I'm glad that you were able to do that. I wouldn't say I dropped the ball because I tried many a times to have
Yeah.
conversations. But again, like we said with the discernment, it comes with maturity.
Mhm.
It comes with knowing, being accountable for who you were in the past and learning how to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just say I was no angel during that time either. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was it was all of us sorting and figuring out a lot, but yeah,
Oh yeah.
it is a privilege to be able to come home and have somewhere to go when your
Mhm.
life bottoms out. And what's interesting too is that like at the end of that cycle when I got my own apartment and things like that, they ended up moving and like clearing out the house and moving across the country. So it's kind of like
Oh
I came
yeah. I
like,
forgot.
right? Like, I came back from the West Coast to Ohio. We kinda did that, like there must have been some kind of, like, karmic end I mean, there was. It was, like, karmic ending after karmic ending. Some kinda astrological something or other was closing out
Mhm.
that, like
Mhm.
and then I moved out, and then it was, like, 5 months, 6 months later, they literally sold the house, the house
Yeah.
even came to a completion, which was really powerful to see happening and to be able to fully let it all go as much
Mhm.
as you can muster.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Do y'all ever go by the house or pet? I'm curious, when was the last time you've ever been over that way?
Okay, irony is that I'm over there every single month because I do some volunteering, and it's literally on that street that I do the
Oh.
volunteering, but I purposely don't drive by the house because the new owners, and this hurts my heart to even say, the new owners immediately cut down all 3 of the trees in the front of the yard, including a magnolia that was planted when my sister had her first communion almost 30 years, like 20 some years ago. All 3 of the trees gone. So I had
Wow.
that was actually I'm like, "Shit, I let go of the house. I let go of the old relationships in the old forms, but I didn't release the land. I didn't
Mhm.
release my connection to the land." So when that came, when I got word of that, I was grieving those trees like I lost 3 different family members.
I mean, literally, they were there for whole life,
And on top of that,
mostly. Yeah.
each of those trees were planted for each of us girls.
Yeah.
It was horrible. So needless to say, I do not go by the house. Like, things completed, I feel complete, which was the gift of it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And it is interesting, like, it's cool that this came up because so much of individuation is taking back your energy
Mhm.
from these old ways of being, the things you've outgrown. And after that process, so that was like in 2020, end of 2020, since then, the way that my home life, my relationships, my love life has all blossomed into the most authentic version of me. Like, I really thought my life in California was like, yeah, this is me. I'm living the life. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, no, girl, like the reclamation of my hometown, of who I was here, all of the different relationships I kind of left behind and turned my back on, frankly, so that
Mhm.
I could do that individuation, the sewing back and the weaving together of all these different parts of myself now. I just feel so proud of myself because I feel so me walking through my everyday. And that's the
Yes.
gift of
I love
unpacking all of
that.
this. I'm
Yes.
so grateful that I got to have all of those experiences and I got to have the space and I got to come back to myself because in a way where all of that was so turbulent and so intense to go through at such a young age. I'm so grateful on a soul level that my soul was like, knock knock, time to go, girlfriend. 26, wake up. You're going to be focusing on way more deep shit than any other
Deeper
20-year-old
shit.
around you.
Exactly.
But now it's
Come with
like,
me.
right? But I'm like, I'm 40 now, and I feel like I've got my feet under me. I've got that
Yeah.
center line solid. I know who I am. I know what I stand for. I know my yeses. I know my nos. Still growing every day. Obviously, that's
Mhm.
never going to
Mhm.
end. Otherwise, life would be very, very boring. Boring. But yeah, it's like my whole life now. I'm like, I get to consciously choose and create how I spend my days.
I think that's what I'm learning being back in Ohio, being in Columbus. I'm just learning how to just kind of I'm still like I'm an adult in Ohio now. Remember I
Yes.
said, I spent these 14, 15 years as a child, but now like I still tell my mom where I'm going, but I don't necessarily have her needs her permission. She just needs to
Right.
know when I'm there, when I'm coming back home kind of deal. So it's that freedom to live the way you want to, the way you set yourself to be. I love to go out and I like to get out and go to museums, get food, things like that. And that's just part of me getting out in Columbus. I don't work in the city.
Yeah.
I work from home. So I'm not meeting like I can't meet my coworkers for lunch or for they're on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
So, this is me and I had to tell myself I'm literally forcing myself to go out because like I have friends in Cleveland and things like that, but I don't really know people here. So I have to force myself to meet people. I won't say force, but I make the initiative. I won't
Right.
say force. I make the initiative to get out and meet people and do things in the city because other if I didn't, I would just be in the house
Right.
waiting on a fine postman to drop something off and marry him. Just saying.
Just saying.
Just
That's gonna be my
saying.
peopling for the week.
say hi to all the dogs that walk past me and Pearl in the mornings. So yeah, you have to find out who you are. You have to understand that okay, this is family. This is the values that they stand for. Do they align with what you stand for? If not, it's okay. Like you are still your person. You are still you and you are still part of that family.
Yeah.
That can't go away because DNA. For the science people in the world,
Thank goodness for him.
the DNA tells it all.
Oh, so good. So, to wrap our conversation, we like to do a little segment where we highlight the hardships that we experienced from this topic and then how those ended up turning into a blessing of some kind or how we grew from it. So, what would you say, Kenesha? What was the hardship?
I think my hardship was just being hyper independent. I think not really relying on people because of maybe, she's doing something else or not really getting a response. I think I had to learn how to get back to asking people to do things or to asking for help instead of carrying a load on my own.
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm really happy you're doing that, by the way, because it shows up for us too in ways that I'm able to show up for you. And
Yeah.
it is kind of amazing, like how we think and maybe have expectations of like people should just show up. But it's like sometimes I don't realize how I'm blocking that by not opening the door to even like signal that
Mhm.
I'm available for that support from my friends or can
Yeah.
literally ask for it. Like, hey, I'm having a really hard day, a really tough mental health day. Can you just tell me something funny? Or can we talk,
Yeah.
do a walk and talk or something just to get out of my own head, I can
Yeah.
do that.
And I think that works so much better than kind of like brushing it off or dismissing someone. If you really care for people or for that person, you would kind of help them along the way, or help them get out their heads because
Yeah,
I overthink a lot. So, we'll
same.
talk and kind of talk things out like, yeah. I'm getting better at it though, but
You are. It's great. I love
I
it. I'm
think
really proud of you.
yeah, I think it really helps to have those relationships. And, I'm very happy that, we've got back connected in Ohio because even when, I was having my issues with, my procedure, you would check on me, hey, how are you feeling? How's things going? Did you take them? Like it was there that you cared and kind of reminded me that you cared instead of like
Mhm.
not really reaching out or showing up for me because you didn't really have to. But you, Jean, and Finn, y'all all showed up for me. So I appreciate that.
We love you. We love you so much.
Yes. I love y'all too.
I think the hardship for me, like reflecting back on this time and this process was it was very, very difficult to be so misunderstood.
Mm,
There just wasn't a curiosity of like, "What's going on? Like, tell me about it.
yeah.
Like, where is this coming from?" From a genuine wanting to know place versus a judgment place, I was just facing so much judgy, backhanded stuff where it would have been nice to have somebody genuinely asking me, like, how's it going? Like, what's happening, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I would say the other thing is like I question myself very badly about all of this. Like when
Mhm.
you're making new decisions outside your norm, you don't have any support there. You don't have like people encouraging you by any means. And the more that you step out of it, the more people are just like, whoa, whoa, like what? Why?
Trying
And
to
all
stop
this
you. Yeah.
yeah, and all this projection of their own fears about travel and their own
Mhm.
fears about, "You can't do that to so and so, like, that's just how family is," and it's just like, I cannot settle for that shit longer. It is literally killing me slowly. Like,
Yeah.
we cannot keep doing this, you know? So, it was hard to guess myself, like, double guess myself so much. Just it was exhausting, like, at every turn, like, "Is this the right call? I don't know what I'm doing," you know? But that being able to, like, withstand that over time and just be with myself in that, it really forged my ability to trust myself And I didn't know how to do that before all of that, and it was a really rough way to learn that, but,
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at it, like, how else are you gonna learn it? Like,
exactly. Yeah, it
so
could be harder ways to to learn for sure.
right? Like, at
Yeah.
least I'm in my own autonomy and choosing. I'm in choice. I'm actively
Mhm.
exercising my ability to choose for my life
Right.
versus, like, something catastrophic happening and me totally being robbed of that opportunity. It's like, well, at least I'm going for it, people. Like, does nobody
Yeah,
you know? Like, it was
exactly.
pretty lonely, but very, very worth it in the end.
Well, I'm definitely proud that you stood I can't even get it out. You stood out on your own, like you said, you were crawling to get from underneath the trauma, the things that worked through within therapy, within taking a trip over the world, coming back to Ohio, going to California. I'm sure there were a lot of trials and tribulations going through those times, and
Many, many,
you
many.
you've overcome them. Some of them you drove back. You drove back
Some
from
of I
California,
had to
but
say, SOS, I'm outta
yeah,
here.
but you but I think even with you doing that, you still held down yourself. You still were doing things for yourself, and I love that.
Thank you, friend. Thank you. So, I mean, I feel like we shared some blessings just now, but what
Yeah.
would you say, like, what came out of this for you?
From stepping away from or stepping out of the family normative, definitely opportunities. I think me sacrificing going to college and, just making sure that I stay in my studies, um, kind of helped me gain travel experience. We talked about me going to South Korea. Um, but also I did a lot of like different trips with my business fraternity. We were
Yeah.
going to different like um conferences and conventions and doing things from that perspective, but also just finding time to just kind of network. I think me having the personality that I have, I was able to network with people and find positions even
Yeah.
while I was in college, find positions, but even now, like I'm still networking. I still have contacts and connections everywhere. So it allowed me to be myself and to bring more of outlook on life. Outside of that family, like I am a person outside of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
What
and
say
that's the
you?
gift right there. That's
Oh
the
yeah,
gift. That's why we do this. I think at the end of the day, after all that I went through with my own individuation process, like, I love who I am now.
period.
I enjoy being me.
Exactly.
I do. I have a lot of fun. Like, I love my creativity. I love the life that I've built. I love the choices that I made to land me in this life. And that's the gift of
That's
doing that
priceless
really
right there.
hard work.
That is
Yeah.
so priceless.
Yeah. Like, I
Because at
think
the
of,
end of the day, you can say that you were yourself. You don't have to be any of us. You had to be Crystal, and it worked out for the best. And you're
yeah,
happy.
I am. I'm very happy. And I think of, for both of us, Kenesha, like the impacts of the ways that we've chosen ourselves on the next generations,
Mhm.
whether, we birth children or not in this life, like our influence is still there. And I think
Oh,
that's really
yeah.
powerful. Like they get to watch us be these amazing aunties in the world
Yes.
doing our thing, like literally doing our thing. And that is so cool.
I think we talked about this outside of the podcast of how my cousins and my nieces and nephews coming to my party and just seeing how they were just so excited to to have a party with their aunties or their cousins. But my cousins, they were literally my children. Like I've changed at least a diaper or two of each of them.
Yeah.
And so, just them seeing me now and them like it's eye opening to them to be like, well, I can do this too. I can have this
Yes.
life. I can
Yes.
go across the world. I can travel. I can start my own podcast or I can do this or that. Like the opportunity is out there. My cousin just graduated from college yesterday.
Congratulations
It's
to her. I saw that. Oh, huge congrats to her.
And I just have to tell her, like, I'm just so proud of her. Like, I also said, "Okay, do not rush. Enjoy this moment
Good.
because the rest of your life is gonna be there. Enjoy
Uh-huh.
this moment. Be safe, but also enjoy it because this is a big accomplishment." And I think that's something that we can talk about another time,
Sure.
about just having time for those accomplishments and enjoying those
Oh,
accomplishments.
and celebration.
And celebrate, girl.
Yes. How beautiful.
I love
I'm
it.
so proud of us. I'm
Yes.
proud of our amazing community who's listening as well. Like, if you've been nodding your head and talking with us, which we always hope you are.
Mhm.
um, God, we see you. Like, congratulations on who you've grown to become. We see you in the very, very, very difficult decisions that you've made along the way of facing so much uncertainty of what people think and what will happen to relationships that are important to you and where is all this leading. God, it's just we see you like we've walked that
Yes.
path, and in so many ways we're still walking, paths like
Mhm.
those. So we love you and we see you, especially as the eldest daughter. Like, we carry so much wisdom in us, and part
Yeah.
of becoming ourselves is letting our own lives reflect that. So we're very, very proud of you.
Yes. Yes. And keep going, for
Yeah.
sure. Yep. Even if it's difficult, yes, it's gonna be difficult. And one thing I had to tell myself, if it was easy, it would be done. And
Good one.
everything easy is not worth having, so
Mm,
enjoy the challenge.
sage advice there.
Yes.
So we're going to leave you with some journal questions to take this inward, to continue that process inside you in your own time. And we want to leave you, we have three for you today. So
Mhm.
the first one is, what boundaries have you created to gain a healthier relationship with your family? And when did you know that you were different in your family system? And how did you embrace being different? And then lastly, what felt high stakes at the time that you realized was dysfunction later?
I know who came up with that question.
Oh my God, I think I had a witch cackle come out of me. Oh, man. Is it
That is
stress
something.
response? Is it really funny? We don't know. But
Yeah.
no, I laugh because that perspective of like, "Oh my god, my life is gonna end if I choose this thing," only to find out that you were in a massive trauma response,
Mhm.
and what was going on around you was seriously effed up, like, oh my god. The gift of this process is being able to laugh and giggle at something like that
It's
because, oh my
something,
god.
exactly, exactly, for
All right, my
sure.
loves. Thank you for being with us today. This was such a beautiful and dynamic conversation. We're just so glad you're here.
Yes, I love this one. This was a good one.
Yeah, it was. Well, until next time, we will see you soon. Be sure to leave us a review. It really, really helps. Be sure to subscribe on whatever platform you're on to get updates. And we're always in the comments on our Instagram at Eldest Daughter Diaries Pod. And we love you, and we're so grateful that you're here. Much, much love to you. Bye.
Love, love. Bye.